Hello and welcome to The Real Stuff. This is our introductory session, and this will be followed by sessions on water baptism, communion, board or administrative council meetings, church business meetings, ministerial finance, baby dedication, wedding, funerals. All of these are important because, to be quite honest, this is the real stuff. Sunday morning preaching is wonderful, and we all love it. And other times, being able to teach and minister. But this is the real stuff. These are things people really will understand and remember about you and about your ministry. So I hope that this will be encouraging and challenging. We're going to have a little fun as we go along, but also this is serious business. We are ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I encourage you to take the things that we're going to be presenting over these next sessions and the videos you're going to be watching seriously. This will help you, I believe, in ministry. A little introduction about myself. I was ordained in 1981. I have performed over 150 weddings, at least 150 funerals. Those are not connected in any way. Dedicated over 100 children at least. And I have chaired, I do not know how many board meetings, administrative council meetings, committee meetings, because all of that's part of ministry. It's part of the things that we do. To be quite honest, a scripture for me, and I hope that you will take this as a life scripture for you. Proverbs 3:5-6. I've learned to trust God in my life and ministry. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll direct your path. I've just learned to trust God in life and ministry. And when I'm being asked to perform weddings or officiate funerals or dedicate babies, I see these as privileges and opportunities to serve, to witness, to be quite honest, to testify, to show who I am as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I encourage you to look at these sessions as a time of learning, maybe new ideas, preparation, and to be observant when you attend events that we're going to talk about. Watch how others do things. Sometimes you learn how to do things and how not to do things. So I encourage you as you walk through that. This first session is a kind of an introduction, and I'm going to go over a few things that are not full sessions that we'll be taking care of later. Here's some of the extras, and that's on your paperwork. Be sure to get those out. First, ministerial dress. You got to know your congregation, your audience, your target group. The local church and community, those standards and accepted practices make a difference. Even businesses are much more casual now than they were when it comes to dress. I often go into a church and I'm the only one in a coat and tie, but I kind of have the bishop outfit on, if you would. But as a pastor, to be quite honest, for years, I wore a coat and tie to work every day. I always wore a coat and tie on Sunday morning to preach. Well, guess what? That's not always the case now. But you do need to look nice. Do the best that you can, and think about your congregation. To be quite honest, now I contact pastors before I come to a church and say, what are you wearing in the pulpit now? Why? Because it's different. I like the idea of wearing a tie and coat on Sunday morning. Here's why. You only get one opportunity to make a good first impression. And if somebody's visiting, sometimes that makes it nice. On the other hand, you know your community. You might be a boots and jeans kind of place. You might be just a very casual kind of a place. You might have some who wear coats and ties still. Not that many as much anymore, but that's okay. We are ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So the idea is, look your best. You're representing all of us. All ministers and Jesus Christ. So look your best and do all that you can in that. And make your people feel very comfortable. You can look around and kind of see how things are and how that those things work together. In this area, to be honest, you just kind of think through what's best for your community, for those who are going to visit, your guests, and for those who are now members and attendees of your church. Second thing, visitation. Always call ahead. It used to be we could just drop by somewhere, just go by and say hello to somebody and everything would be fine. We're in a different age, a different time, to be quite honest. I encourage you, call ahead, see if this evening or this time would be a good time. You never know if something is going to be going on, and you could catch them at a very inopportune moment. It's just called good manners. Our mamas, I think, tried to teach us some of those things. So use good manners in it. And don't stay too long. One of the best things I ever learned from pastors I worked with was a 15-minute visit is long enough. That's at a home or even at a hospital. Kind of be aware of what's happening. You can kind of feel what's happening in the house if you go by someone's house to say hello. And you ask, is this a good time? Just making sure again. And to be quite honest, the most important thing you can do is watch and listen, encourage, and then always have prayer with those in the family that you get to see. The third thing, new members. You should always take some time, if you're a pastor, to do some teaching and some information with the prospective members. I would never have someone become a member of a church I was pastoring if I had not first had some teaching time with them, visited with them, understood about them, made sure that they knew what we believed in the church where we are. In your church, if you're the pastor, take the time to make sure they are comfortable, that they understand. What is the International Pentecostal Holiness Church? What is New Horizons Ministries? What does your church do? Make sure they understand all of that before you would accept them in as members. I like the idea of a new members class. I mean, that could either be 4 weeks, 6 weeks. You could do it 13 weeks. You could do a whole Sunday school time if you have that, or a discipleship time, or just a couple of weeks to get with them for a couple of hours each time to go over what is our doctrine, what is our government, what do we believe, what are the things that we have. It'll make them feel comfortable. Tithing, attendance, all of those things are important. So you want them to feel comfortable and understand what it is to be a member of your church. Because the truth is, with membership comes privilege. They get to vote in church business meetings. They get to do other things. It's important for them to know. Another area is leadership. In this day and time, we are needing to raise up, to train, to equip, and to release ministers into their destiny, into ministry, service. If you're a pastor or if you're just a minister, to be quite honest, always look for potential leaders, for that leadership potential in people. Have leadership classes. Talk to them about the importance of being a good leader, of following the gospel of Jesus Christ, of living a holy, pure life, being a witness to others. Don't put people into leadership too soon or too late. The truth of it is, you got to make sure it's in that right time. I would always encourage you to have someone, use a word, intern. Have them to be with someone for a period of time. Have a leader in a Sunday school class or a discipleship class, or those who might be interested in being on your administrative council. Make sure they understand what those positions actually mean, what responsibilities, what privileges that they would have. So I encourage you, spend some time, let them see how things are done. Because if you do that, you're going to really work with them, and they're going to understand more of what they're getting into and not have a question later or feel disillusioned and not want to be a part of leadership in your church. Something to consider for the future. And also have those meetings. Meet with all of your leaders, with your teachers, with people in ministry director times, those are in those positions and things. Meet at least quarterly with them, at least 4 times a year at least. Plan a calendar, walk through the things that need to be done, talk about certain things. There's a lot of things there that can be done. And when you meet with those leaders, you know what you're doing? You are giving them information, but you're also building a relationship. Jesus did it. I personally believe Jesus laughed with his disciples. They shared meals. They talked together. They worked together. It was more than just showing up on a Sunday. and being done. Relationships are really important. And hold leadership accountable for their actions, for their words, for their decisions. We as leaders, we are looked at by the world, and we're looked at by others in the church. Now, granted, there are some people, you just can never please them. There are some people, to be quite honest, they're offended that you continue to breathe. I always joke and say, I think you should just go ahead and keep breathing just to spite them. No, the truth of it is, though, you're never going to please some people. But as leaders, we do have to work with the things we have, the opportunities that we have. Be careful of our words and actions. I know this is hard for some to believe, but I have opinions. I have ideas. In fact, sometimes I can climb right up on my soapbox and say the things that I feel. I have political ideas. I have church ideas. I have family ideas. And all of us do. But we have to be careful of our words and actions and be aware that if someone agrees with you or disagrees with you, discussions and talk about it. But if you have leadership that have sin in their lives, you have leadership who make bad decisions, who do things, if you're the pastor, if you're in a position of leadership in the church, you have to hold others accountable, and we have to be held accountable for the things that we do. The last part of this introduction is communication. There's an important part. Communication. Be aware of your digital footprint. Facebook posts, tweets, emails, letters, recordings, videos like you're watching. All of those are considered a digital footprint. Be aware of a digital footprint in your life because you really can't erase those things very well. And we have to make sure we're doing the right things. Your correspondence, like I mentioned, email, letters, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things, it leaves an imprint. And once those are written, once they're filmed, once they're out there and distributed, it really is very difficult to pull those things back. Reminds me of the little story of the Indian chief who was visiting with a warrior, and the warrior wanted to have understanding about some words he had spoken, and that there was someone who was very upset with him. And he went to the chief and said, how can I get that back, and how can I make it right? The Indian chief, very, very wise man, said, here. And he pulls out 4 feathers. He hands them to the young warrior and he says, go to the top of that mountain, release the feathers, and come back to me. The young warrior thought that was a very odd thing, but he did it. He climbed to the top, released the feathers, and came back down. When he returned to the Indian chief, this wise man, he said, now what do I do? The Indian chief said, go get those feathers. And the young warrior said, what? I can't go get those. They're gone. They're in the wind. They're gone. And the chief said, and so are your words. You are never able to retrieve them completely. They're there. They're already out there. You'll never be able to completely bring them back. See, even when we apologize for our wrongdoing, even when we, in restitution and in restoration, even when we try to make sure certain things are done, we all have memories, this God-given ability to recall things. And even if someone has forgiven you, or if you have forgiven someone else on an issue, it's still there. And our digital footprint is still there. Be careful of that communication. Don't always respond at a time when you're angry. Let it go. Be done. And remember, you're representing Jesus. You're representing the church. And the truth is, you're representing all of us as fellow ministers of the gospel. And how we act in public truly is a huge impression upon those who watch us. You can preach all the great sermons in the world, and if your actions are not of love, if your words are not of love, what good is it? Clanging cymbal, crazy sounds, and what will people remember? This is the real stuff. This is the introductory session. I'm going to be going on to other things now. Think about this. 3 things. Be sure to answer the following questions and bring your written answers to the Equip class. 1. So what did you learn in this session about the real stuff, this topic, that you previously didn't know? Number 2. So what are 2 things that you will use from this session that you learned in your ministry? 3. Were there any points that I made in this session that you didn't agree with? And by the way, it's okay to disagree. But were there any points made in this session that you didn't agree with? And what would your suggestion be on that? Be sure to answer those and bring those with you to the Equip session that we'll be having later this year. God bless you, and go to the next session. I'm Bishop Randall Drake.